Today, we're going to be joined by Tyler Wonderlick. He's the VP of Customer Success at Steer, and that's not his first rodeo. I took a glimpse at his LinkedIn. He's actually used to work there, went, did some other things, and then came back. He's here to share specifically how he's done a few bold moves within the companies he's worked at. We're going to touch on the importance of giving customer success managers the expansion motion, the upsells, and specifically one bold move that he's done, which is expansion campaigns. And we're going to unfold that right now. Tyler, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you. Very excited to be here.
Hopefully, today we're going to talk about the exact tactics that led to this double-digit jump in gross retention rate. Also, a little bit behind the scenes on what did you exactly do? What did it look like? And what was this upsell strategy that you unfolded there? And the biggest landline that you avoided to try scaling without unnecessary chaos. And everybody, you want to listen to this. You definitely don't want to miss this. Like having CSMs own the revenue numbers, if you can pull that off, that's one of your biggest moves possible as the heads of customer success. So let's just set the stage. Tyler, to kick things off, maybe you can give us a little bit of a snapshot of your CS team at Steer, just so we can get some context.
So my CS team at Steer today is definitely multi-dimensional. When I actually joined the company about a year ago, it was very similar to most companies where customer success as a catch-all, there's no pre-described roles. Everybody sort of does everything to make sure that customers have good experience. As you likely know, and as many others know, if you're doing everything, you're doing nothing. Right? You don't have that specialization. You're not spending time in the right places. So the team originally was doing things like answering phone calls, answering chats, responding to reactive messages. Since then, the team has grown very large. So the team originally started as a group of 7, catch-all. We're now a group of around 25 individuals made up between 4 different subfunctions. So we have customer support, which is what you'd consider to be your reactive customer support team. Very by the book, handles most of your inbound reactive responses. And then we have our implementation team or our onboarding team. They're very focused on delivering immediate value to customers, getting them over the finish line. Also, we do have a free trial. So getting them past that mark is super important for them. Then we have our customer success managers. I can talk a little bit about how we segment them based on some sizes of these customers and then also growth opportunities. And then lastly, we actually do have a team of upgrade specialists. So that's sort of where things get a little bit unique. The CSMs, yes, they own expansion and yes, they own growth. I've actually got an upgrade team that is sort of working in between onboarding and customer success management. And their sole focus is to grab customers that are buying a very early stage, cheaper product and then pull them through, call that like tip of the spear, pull them through to our full-fledged CRM product. It feels like a very cohesive motion for us at this point.
Yeah, I don't get a lot of guests that have that kind of function or a specialized role. And you also mentioned that your team grew quite a bit. I think there's a lot of focus around scaling the team. And so maybe you could tell us, give us some context. What kind of clients do you work with? And what's the volume of clients that your team has to deal with?
A little bit about Steer. We work in the auto repair space. So not a very commonly known space, or you probably don't meet a lot of folks that work in that space, but we actually sell a CRM product and a scheduler product. So if you think about yourself as a consumer, it is not a very pleasant experience going to an auto repair shop, especially if you don't know much about cars. I'm not a car guy myself, so I very much fall into that bucket. But what we do is we actually provide an online scheduler to these customers that allows their customers to come through, book appointments on their website, very similar to if you're going to actually book a reservation on Google for a restaurant. We're selling to the repair shops themselves. They are our end customer, but their end customer being the consumer. So that scheduler product for them, we're selling them the scheduler, and then they're using that scheduler to attract more business, convert business on their Google page or their website.
So every CSM is assigned to
The repair shop. In addition to the scheduler product, we also have a CRM. So very similar to like a HubSpot or a Salesforce, right? Or more vertical SaaS. Our CRM is very much geared towards driving repeat business back to this repair shop. So if you think about our products, right, we've got 2 core products, scheduler and CRM. The scheduler being very cheap, we actually don't have assigned CSMs. So that very much is a tech touch playbook. No assigned CSMs. We've got about Geez, today I think we're around 2,500 customers that fall into that bucket. And then we have a CRM product. We've got about another 2,500 customers in that bucket. Those are all assigned to CSMs.
Would you say that the engagement model is higher touch or high touch during onboarding and lower touch after that? Or do you have a pooled model or dynamic segmentation? I mean,
Yep.
2,500 accounts, you can't even hire enough CSMs to have a true high
No,
touch.
you can't. I'm very used to enterprise customer success, multi-million dollar accounts, named CSM, account managers. You've got the whole company basically working in customer success. You've got executive stakeholders, all sorts of folks that are getting involved with clients. And so this has been a unique opportunity for me to build out a totally different approach. So the scaled, it is very high touch in the beginning and onboarding. I'm a huge believer that in the onboarding period, get the customers set up, get them ready for success. And then with the scheduler product, the goal is that we've got them set up to the point where we don't need to have proactive engagement with that customer. We might have some strategic engagement, and I'll talk about how our upgrade team is sort of supplementing that in a minute. But then on the CRM side of things, we break that down into 3 different segments. So then we've got our single shop customers, our multi-shop, and enterprise. So enterprise, very high touch. That multi-shop, a bit high touch, a bit low touch. And then single shop is very low touch as well. They still have a dedicated CSM, but I mean, we're talking 1,000 shops per person. So we've got one CSM owning about 1,000 shops right now.
Today, we're going to talk about your approach to upsells. So I wanted to say, with that in mind, who did this campaign target? Which segment?
So this campaign targeted all of our scheduler product customers. So back in August, we actually acquired a company called AutoOps. They only did online scheduling. And we made a bet that customers that do online scheduling would be very likely to upgrade to a full CRM product. My team was ultimately held responsible and owns that metric of upgrades. Today, what happens is anyone that buys the scheduler product, we've got to figure out, when do we start to target them? Do we target them through omni-channel approaches? Do we have conversations about the previous product and try to upgrade to the new product? There's a whole bunch of strategy that we've rolled out, and we've been very successful in doing so.
Before we dive into the actual campaign, wanted to ask you, you said that you have some enterprise and some multi-store, multi-site customers. I think a lot of those who are listening to this interview probably have something like that in their customer base. You said that enterprise probably have a high touch, a dedicated CSM, the rest of the segmentation. And then you said that the ones that have the schedule product don't even have a dedicated CSM. What baffles me is that, where's the bandwidth? Do you have like a dedicated team of CSMs that only do enterprise and then the rest of them do dedicated, or like doing a pooled model for the rest? And like, how do they pull off a campaign like that if they're busy with other accounts?
Right at the beginning, when I joined Steer, it was a whole bunch of testing. I think that anyone that takes over a customer success team or starts a customer success team, you're always going to make bets. The bet that I made was, hey, this team needs to look a particular way. And it was based off of my past experiences. A lot of things that I did didn't work correctly, or they didn't work the way that I wanted them to work. And so over time, optimizing that, we got to the point where we did start to specialize CSMs. So we had our enterprise folks that were only focused on larger enterprise accounts, and folks that were more geared towards this like tech touch, heavier in the onboarding sequence types of CSMs. So that changed our archetypes. Who do we hire? What sort of experiences are we looking for in that hiring process? What about existing folks that shown skills that relate well to a couple of these different segments? And I'd say just now we're getting to the point where we've got the right people in the right seat focused on the right activities.
Sounds to me like you have 2 types of CSM profiles that you hire for. One that can work one-on-one with a customer, whether they're enterprise or multi-shop. And then you have another cohort that you hire that can actually pull off that tech stack, the digital CS motions. Since this campaign and this upsell strategies for the tech touch motion, can you tell us a little bit about what kind of profile do you recommend hiring for that? If somebody were to listen to you say, oh, I'd love to do that, who do they need in those seats to make the campaign successful?
Tech touch is such an interesting, it's sort of a newer type of CSM archetype profile, if you will. What I've enjoyed is actually finding folks that have customer marketing experience or product marketing experience, but sort of lend or take a step forward into the realm of customer success versus just hiring a customer success manager that has worked with small customers. And the reason why is If you hire folks that are so used to doing hand holding or even light hand holding, they always try to find a way to do that. And the minute you start to spend more time with a single customer or a couple customers, based on ones that are raising their hands or the loudest, the program dies. So you want to find someone that thinks about it like it's their own business. So you are stepping outside the business. You're looking at it holistically from the top down. The product marketing or customer marketing type profile thinks about things at scale. How do I produce this piece of content, or how do I produce this message that can resonate with all of my customers or a very large segment of my customers? And I found that those folks work well in a role like this.
So let's dive in a little bit about the upsell strategy. Specifically, the campaign that we're going to talk about was the company had purchased a new customer base, essentially, that uses a very specific tool that most repair shops use. And the idea was to introduce them, create awareness, and get raised hands around, hey, who wants a CRM system?
Yep. What's nice about this acquisition is we actually made the decision to give this product to all of our existing customers for no additional cost. What was nice about that is it was a huge retention play, and it was also a move that we felt that our customers deserved. And it also then allowed us to focus, again, on this very important bet of moving customers from the scheduler product up into the CRM product.
You were giving the CRM for free, or the new scheduler that you
The new
just bought for
scheduler.
free?
Yeah, the new scheduler that we bought for free to existing CRM customers. It's less about the direct impact and it's more about where we focused our attention. For my CSM, they've got a pie of time. The thinking there was, hey, if we focus way more exclusively on the retention of these folks, and we also have exclusive focus with the folks that are purchasing the scheduler only product to upgrade them, we'll be way more successful in doing so. That's actually one of the reasons originally, and in my past experience, I've been very used to having CSMs lead the upgrade motion. And in this case, I made the decision not to have the CSMs lead the upgrade motion. So I brought in a team of upgrade specialists, account executives, folks that we moved from sales roles into an upgrade role. And they were the ones that actually started targeting and are continuing to target the scheduler only products for upgrade.
It sounds like you have two goals. One, for the existing customer base that's already using the CRM, the big goal for the CSM team is just to retain, not necessarily upsell. So you have less upsell campaigns for that cohort.
There is some, and everyone's got different definitions. For us, we call it expansion. So a lot of our larger shops, they're buying more shops around the country, or they're opening more shops. So the CSMs do own the expansion muscle, but the upgrade muscle is isolated directly to the upgrade team.
The main focus is to get this new customer cohort also using the other product. And the reason you want to do that is get a larger share of the wallet spend. Yes?
That's right. It's about 3 times more expensive.
Let's talk about some of the key challenges or blockers to even launch a campaign like that. Did you have anything that when you designed that you felt, yeah, I definitely need to pay attention to that as I'm designing a campaign that would work?
2 things needed to happen. The first is we wanted to make sure that our customers didn't feel like we were selling them the scheduler product and then quickly layering on a different product. Right? You can imagine as a consumer, everyone's bought subscriptions where you buy one thing and then you quickly get someone's trying to sell you a second thing. My belief, especially being in this industry, is it is a very, very relationship-driven industry. So our customers do not respond well to emails. They do not respond well to just mass market messages, which again also makes the tech touch difficult. But in this particular instance, I knew that we needed to layer in very personal relationships with these customers. What I ended up doing is sort of creating 2 roles in the upgrade team. One is a BDR, and then one is a sales rep. And the BDR, the way we position him to the customers was he's more of a consultant. So when he calls, he's not immediately going, hey, you just bought AutoOps. I'd love to talk to you about Steer. AutoOps being our scheduler product, Steer being the CRM product. And instead, what he's doing is he's actually going directly into a value add conversation. So we've created a tool internally using customers' data that tells us how they compare to their peers, how they compare to other competitors of theirs in the space. And he'll actually use that data to have a strong data-driven conversation. So imagine you're a repair shop and I'm calling you as this consultant. Thank you so much for being an AutoOps customer. How are things going? Oh, going very well, like in the scheduler tool. things are working the way I intended them to. Great. Hey, by the way, I'm looking at your data right now, and it looks like you're doing a good job of converting traffic to your site and getting folks to schedule appointments, but they're not coming back a second and a third time. One, did you know that? And two, what are you doing about it? Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Or, oh, yeah, I did know that. And, we're talking about marketing strategies to maybe change that. And then he quickly lends himself into the steer CRM conversation. So that's the approach that we've done. It's worked pretty well.
Now they grab their attention. They stretch the gap, as we say in sales, right? Like there's a pain point or there's an interest in seeing what else can unfold. And then at that point, what is the call to action from the BDR to get them to the next step? What is that next step?
He's asking for them to schedule a demo.
That's very salesy.
What he's saying is hey, it sounds like this might be an interesting product for you. You've already gone through sort of analogy I like to use with my team is like, you're already working out. You should also eat healthy. You're already doing one good thing. You should do the second good thing. And so we positioned that with our customers, and that actually has resonated very, very well with them. I'm already making this change in my business. I'm already adding the scheduler to my website. I might as well think about other ways to make my business better.
So the BDR has a way to say, here are the gaps, then map that to why you would need a CRM system. And then would you like to see how that might look like?
That's right.
Schedule a demo. What's your success rate with that?
So 70% of demos upgrade, and that's over a 3-month period. Our big challenge now, honestly, at this point is how do we get more demos? And that's another problem that we're solving.
I assume there's hundreds of accounts that you acquired through the scheduler. Who does the demo? Is that the upsell specialist, the upgrade specialist?
Yeah. Right now, I've got one BDR about to have a second, and I've got 2 sellers.
For you, success would be X number of demos per week or per month, correct?
Yeah, and we break it down, all the unit economics of, we know how many calls it takes to get a demo. We know how many demos it takes to get a sale right at the 70% clip. Our first quarter, we hit 150% of our goal in the first quarter in terms of the upgrades that we did for the team. We raised our forecast for Q2, and I think we're at a pretty good spot going into the quarter.
Any thoughts of how you can scale that process going forward?
We've talked a lot about that. I think the team is pretty lean. It's a very profitable team. So even at this rate, I think we'll be in a pretty good position. For us, though, I'm always a huge fan of products like this to be in product. So the more that we can drive in product activity and adoption and actually have that upgrade happen inside of the product itself, I'd say even if it's 20% of our upgrades happen in product, I think that would be a huge win.
Have you considered like group demos?
These folks are such relationship driven and also very private in terms of like their metrics. They want to see how it looks for themselves and what the impact would be for themselves. We haven't found as much success. We have tried doing some group demos like that, but that's more for like conferences or like groups that we're selling to, that sort of thing.
They go on a call with your upgrade specialist. They see a demo. And then at the end of the demo, do they already get an offer to upgrade, or do they get an offer to do like a proof of concept? Like you mentioned something about a free trial.
Yeah, so we're giving them 30 days for free. So they get 30 days to try it. And if they don't like it, they can opt out.
But by that time, what do you do in those 30 days to make it stick?
That's the magic. That's the special sauce of the customer success team. We set this thing up so customized for the buyer, where you're getting in, we do a couple things. So shops that are a bit more mature and have a good sense of how they want to market to their customers, we let them take over and do what they want. For those that say, hey, we want you to tell us what we should be doing, which is most shops. Most auto repair shops are not marketing experts. We give them our special sauce playbook. They execute it. And one of the cool things about working at Steer, and I always recommend this to anyone in their career search, is find a product that actually is making a difference. Understand what the ROI of that product is, how long it takes to get ROI with that product. I'm very grateful that Steer has good ROI immediately, but that in itself is worth its weight in gold.
Totally agree with you, by the way. And I also would add to that, do that during the interview process. If you can't understand the ROI, customers probably don't either. So there's that. It's a smooth, nearly risk-free. I wanted to ask you, do you customize the demo for each? It almost sounded like you did, because you said, well, it's very personalized. You can't do group demos. Sounds like that's why you need an upgrade specialist, because they do take the time to understand the shop and then make it customized to their needs.
Most of these customers that we're upgrading, we're taking away from our competitors. So they're very used to seeing something a particular way. And now we're showing them why we're different, how we're different, the value of having the scheduler and the CRM together inside of one single platform. So because they're used to that, having some level of customization does make sense because they've got tons and tons of questions about feature differences, customer success differences, all those sorts of things.
How long have you had this initiative in place already?
Since about September of last year.
How much did that impact percentage wise your gross retention rate?
Massively. On the gross side, it impact, I think we've got about a 10-point difference in terms of gross. And then on net, it's closer to like a 22-23% difference in terms of our net retention.
Those are incredible gains, by the way. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
What do you think were the main drivers that made these numbers jump? Like, if you did something different, would have been that much.
A lot of CS teams and leaders are very afraid to own upgrades and expansions. And one would argue that, hey, this is sales. Like this makes sense to go under the sales team. And in some instances, I think that it's true. But because this is so directly correlated to the way we do customer success, because I think you remember at the beginning of the conversation, I mentioned I don't have customer success managers for the scheduler product. And that's because I want all of those customers to come to the CRM. So if I had a customer success manager, all I'd be doing is just pulling accounts from their book of business. But this BDR consultant really is acting as sort of conduit to customer success. And because I was able to say, hey, I think we can do a good job at the sales front, but also I think this will directly impact gross retention and our net retention simply by having more consultative conversations with this BDR consultant, it seemed like a very natural fit into customer success and the CS team.
Listen, I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm sure there's a few heads of customer success that are listening to this and they're like, okay, give me the playbook. Where do I start? You almost need to start with figuring out where's your biggest upsell move. So you can just focus on that, create an ROI plan and say, okay, this is how much I think we could potentially, like what percentage do they use that it sounds realistic? And then justify hiring a BDR and a specialist. Like, is that your first steps or did you do something else?
I always recommend test. You are in the seat for a reason, whether that's your past experiences, whether it's your innovation or your ability to take on risk. And what I'll tell you and what I'll tell anybody listening is test, come up with an idea and test it. So no, I didn't have a BDR. I didn't have a seller. I was the BDR and the seller. I came up with what I thought was interesting playbook and I tried it myself. Scrappy startup sort of lifestyle. I learned a ton by doing that. And then I made a recommendation. Hey, what if I hire one sales rep to do this and I'm the BDR? Okay, what if I hire a BDR and one sales rep? What is the extrapolation results? You start to go and go and go. You learn a ton in that process. It doesn't have to be this huge playbook that is perfected, that you've spent months and months making. Challenge yourself to come up with a few hypotheses, test those, and then get buy-in from the rest of leadership or the rest of the folks that you work with, and then take it a step at a time.
What inspires you? You reading any books or podcasts, obviously, besides mine, that gives you some good ideas and always keep you filled with ideas and motivation? Anything you recommend?
I like to read a lot about serial entrepreneurs. The Customer Success Handbook is just one that I would recommend to anyone that wants to become a CSM or understand what it's like to be a CSM. But other than that, trying to consume as much as I can on LinkedIn. People post all the time about cool tests that they've run or cool ways that they're trying to innovate the motion of customer success. There's no shortage. And I think if you open yourself up and you give yourself time to read and meet cool people and talk about your stories and their stories, you'll pick up on a lot of unique strategies that you can implement into your business.
Would you use ChatGPT or any AI tool for this initiative?
Daily. I love ChatGPT. I hope that it doesn't become too much of a crutch for me, but what's cool about ChatGPT, and a lot of people either love it or hate it. When you have a concept or you have a thought, oftentimes what happens for me or the thought process is, hey, I've got this test I want to run, or I've got this idea that I think is impactful. Then the next step is actually drawing it out, building something that you can share with others. That's where I let ChatGPT do a lot of the heavy lifting. So I'll simply go into ChatGPT and say, hey, write up a quick proposal for a business that is doing X. Here are the early results. Here's my hypothesis. And it saves you 5, 6, 7 hours of manual heavy lifting. So I love ChatGPT.
Did you use ChatGPT or any AI tools for this upgrade campaign?
Yes, for a lot of the outreach, for some of the cadences, for when we'd call, to analyze some of the data for some of the tests that I ran, a whole bunch of things like that.
If anybody wants to connect with him, we'll have the LinkedIn link in the description below. So you're welcome to connect and asking even more questions that I may have accidentally forgot to ask. And with that, it's a wrap. Tyler, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please give it a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast, and check out our Customer Success Academy, specialized for newbies. If you're a first time head of customer success, or you're a founder thinking about starting up your customer success program, and you're thinking about moving somebody from client to head that function, or an existing executive that never done it before, or even a great rising star CSM, they don't have the playbook, check out my academy, see if I can help you out. And with that, it's a wrap. I will see you at the next podcast episode.